Benvenuta all'episodio numero 2 del collettivo VIP. Never done a podcast before.
Never.
First, and it's a video podcast.
I've never done a video podcast before.
Mm-hmm. So say hi to everyone, by the way.
Hi, everybody.
Which camera? Camera one?
Everybody.
Hello.
Hi, all cameras.
This is your
Hi, everybody.
second? Third,
Yes.
Second?
So
This is your second?
This is second.
Wow.
So this is episode number 2. You guys are on.
Wow,
so
I feel extra special.
This is
Jeez, when we weren't number one.
I know. Well, you know,
Choose the best.
we'll
though.
talk about that later. We'll talk about it in the car on the way home.
Yeah, we'll go offline with that one. So episode number 2.
Yep.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us.
So I wanted to have you guys on because obviously we've worked together a number of
Once in a
times.
while.
Once in a
Now and
while,
then,
right?
yeah.
It's always super fun, and that's why I wanted to bring champagne as well because
Nice.
I knew things were going to get wild.
Because that makes things even more fun.
Yeah, every shoot. So let's give some background on your story because we work together a lot and we never get to talk about the actual backstory. So like,
Oh my
when did you
God.
start shooting?
Okay, I started with 5ive15 in 2001.
Oh,
At the tender age of 17. So that's when I started. I started assisting at the studio, and I've been there ever since. And then eventually I became a partner, and then sole owner, and then I shared that with Eric a few years ago, and here we are. But before that, it's funny because here's a funny story. So as an Italian kid growing up, you had there's a few jobs that you would do. One would be at a grocery store.
which I worked as well.
Did you?
And I'm not Italian.
So one would be like a grocery store. Italian kids in like Vaughan always grew up.
Yeah,
they worked at
You go to a grocery store, you go do produce somewhere.
Yeah. And or you work at a banquet hall. And so I actually started serving at a banquet hall in grade 9. So I've been in the industry for a very, very long time.
Okay.
And it's funny because I've seen weddings transition from like these, nice enough affairs into like these crazy, beautiful events that are just that. They're crazy events. And everybody loves weddings now, and it's all wedding. So, it was interesting to see sort of the industry change over the years.
So when you were 17, you started working. But so when did the photography thing like take off for you?
So, I took a
that?
couple courses in high school, and I really enjoyed it. And so I'm like,
The dark room?
The
Did you
dark
get
room.
the dark
Dark
room
room,
with the
yep.
sliding door?
Everybody
Yeah,
loves
yeah.
the dark room.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. We're all a little weird, I guess. So I started with that, and it's funny because my photography teacher at the time, she was like, I went to a Catholic school, and she was super religious. And so every class she'd start with like this prayer, and then she would go on and on and on. And I'd be like, okay, I just want to like learn and I just want to shoot. Like, can we just get past all this praying stuff? Like, I already take a religion class.
You
Like,
got that out of the
I don't
way.
need this again. Like,
Yeah.
let's just get shooting and let's get developing and stuff. And from there, I really enjoyed it. And so I started working at a studio.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what about you, Eric? What happened with you?
With me, I went to school for photography. I went to Fanshawe 3 years prior, so 2008, give or take. Then I traveled for a little bit, and then, of course, did the grocery store gig. Growing up in
So wait, in the grocery store, what did you do?
I was working in the grocery department.
What did you do?
I didn't work in a grocery
No,
store.
he did
I
the banquet hall
I
thing.
did the banquet hall thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's either grocery store
It's
or banquet.
one or the
But
other.
Eric's not
Yeah.
Italian.
Okay.
So
No, I'm
I'm
Irish, but I was working at an Italian-owned independent grocery store,
Gotcha.
which was my last job before 5ive15, actually.
Gotcha.
And that was back in 2011 when I came on board. I covered a mat leave that Mike had up, and I stuck around ever since. Couldn't get rid of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like a bad smell.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. That's me.
I can smell
That's
it.
me.
I know
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
talking
I know.
about.
Sorry. There's no smell in it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's basically it. I never thought I'd be shooting weddings leaving when I finished college and all that. I always wanted to, be a studio photographer or something like that. But,
Right.
That's funny because I always thought that I would want to shoot weddings.
Yeah?
Because I really loved weddings.
I was- yeah.
Because
When you
I
were
started.
younger.
Yeah, because I started working in weddings, and I'm like, oh, weddings are actually really beautiful and fun. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny because I never really had a desire to shoot product or fashion. Maybe a little bit. I thought it was kind of glamorous, but knowing the industry now, I'm kind of very happy that I never took that path.
Yeah.
And I love people, and I love working with people, and so
Yeah.
shooting product or inanimate objects is just not so fun.
Not the same.
It's fun every now and then for a little break, but
Yeah, like 30 minutes when you have
Yeah.
to shoot the ballroom, and it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
just get don't have to be on right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can literally just be quiet and take a million photos of these flowers.
Little me time
Yeah.
during the wedding day.
Little me time. It's funny because that shooting details is me time, and I find driving those days where you're driving from location to location to location, you're spending a lot of time in your car.
Yeah.
That's also a little bit of
That's
me time.
It is.
yeah.
Yep. Windows
Yeah.
down, especially on a wedding day.
On
Windows
the hot
down.
wedding
Yeah.
day, you're
Got
like,
the wind coming through.
Yeah,
like,
maybe go through a drive-through,
Yeah.
get a little ice cap or
Power up.
something
Exactly.
for the car ride, and just literally be silent.
yeah.
that's the best.
So good.
We know now, like the backstory. What was the pivotal moment when you're like, I really love photography? Like, did you start, like, obviously you took it in high school, but was there like a moment where you're like, I really like doing this. I want to keep doing this professionally?
Yeah, for me, it was like being the person to provide like the family photos that you're
Yeah.
going to have for generations and generations and generations, and being the documentor
Documentor. Yeah.
of like the wedding day. And that was just something like when I realized that, it was really rewarding, and just it's a very special day for everyone, and
Yeah.
everyone's dressed up and grandma's there, and you get these
Grams.
Yeah,
I love grams.
And so many people have photos where like they're just snapped on a phone
Yeah.
or they're cropped out or something. So to provide like a high quality, high res, like
Everlasting moment.
Yeah,
more
yeah,
or less.
to do
That's
that.
something kind of cool like that.
yeah,
right?
that was really rewarding.
Nice.
Realizing that.
Mine, I think, is similar to what you said in terms of like just documenting those occasions when a lot of people in your life are around and there. Like I photographed one of my uncle's birthday parties early on, and when I started doing photography, and then he passed away shortly, and all those images that we captured in those group photos of like my uncle and my mom and her siblings and all that, like they're all really special, and to this day, like all my family members have those photos up in their home, and so that's super rewarding. It's really nice to see.
Yeah.
So it's not about like, oh, I had my photo published in this magazine or in this blog or whatever. For me, it's not really about that. For me, it's about like the fact that people are going to get these images afterwards, and what we're doing is, I think, going to benefit the generations to come. So, yes, our couples are enjoying it now and they're reliving their day via everything that we captured, but really it's their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren who are going to look back at these photos and be like, wow, look at my grandma. Like she was a babe. And so I think that's something that people don't realize.
Yeah.
And as much as a wedding day is about all these moving parts and all this beauty, at the core of it is still the love that this couple shares and the love that they have for their family and their friends who are there celebrating with them. And I think it's really important to make sure that you document all of that.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way for video, because a lot of times people, they're like, oh, I don't like my voice and I don't like this, I don't like this, right? But then
Going back 10 minutes ago,
Yeah,
that's when I said that.
but then you get to, like, your kids or family members get to watch that back when you're older. And so I actually had a friend of mine who I filmed in like 2015, so a few years ago. She got married and she recently reached out. She's like, can you put my grandmother's video in front of my video so that it's her grandmother's, and it wasn't like a wedding video like we see now. It's not like the cinematic stuff. It's literally them like waving at the camera, that kind of stuff, right? But then she gets like all these little candid clips, and then that opens up her video. And so for her, she got really emotional because she was able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like you get to see these people at their youth and in their happiest day and stuff. So
I mean, and stills are wonderful, but there is something about video
Yeah.
that captures sort of the essence of a person.
But I think they
the
really-
mannerisms, the way
think
they
they-
move,
yeah,
and the way they
for sure.
their voice and the way they dance, and just So I
Yeah.
think there's something really special with
Yeah.
both aspects of what we do.
well, that's the thing. I think they really complement each other, because there was
Yeah,
one,
they do.
and we had worked on one together.
Yep.
And it's Rachel and Michael
Yes.
that we had worked on together.
Yeah.
And so you had sent over the albums, because sometimes I don't get to see the full albums. Usually I don't get to see the full
Right,
albums.
yeah, we don't.
Couples, right? It's kind of like the thing that never happens. But you
I
had
do
sent it
remember
over.
sharing that one with you,
And you
yeah.
shared it. And as I was scrolling through, I was like, we have all the motion of what because we like to shoot when you guys are shooting. And so we had a lot of the motion of what you guys were doing. And so it's almost like they complement each other, because as you're getting the still, you're getting the motion. And it's like the two go
Yeah.
hand in hand.
Yeah,
And I
they
thought it
should-
was like the coolest.
They show personalities in different ways, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, definitely. So
That was a really beautiful wedding you guys did together.
That wedding was gorgeous.
That was.
That was the best lighting for family photos I've
Oh my
ever
God.
had, hands
Absolutely.
down. We were up on top of the hill in Meaford, and the sun
Yep.
was setting, and
And
we
the
were
sun
like,
was, I remember that.
it was amazing.
And we went in the church and all the bees were in there.
Yeah, it wasn't a church. It was a beehive.
Oh, yeah. I was like, what?
That's where they kept their bees.
Yeah. They had their own little church on the property.
Yeah, they built this little stone church with like 8 pews in it, and
Yeah.
maybe sat 20 people.
It was really pretty, though.
It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
But they didn't use it a lot,
didn't
so the
use
bees
it.
moved in.
So the bees moved in.
But it made
was
a great
crazy.
backdrop.
Made a
Yeah, it
great
did.
backdrop.
I
Yeah.
think we got like, well, you probably got like 4 snaps before we had to.
I got very few photos
Be-
inside
yeah, I
the church
remember how
because it
fast
was
it
the
was.
contrasting light coming in through the windows was like
That's right.
so harsh.
Yep.
And I think that was, I think we maybe had like 30 minutes or 40 minutes for family photos in that location. It
Yeah.
was like the best scenario for photography and the tightest timeline ever.
And I remember because it was like October, so it was later. So
Yeah,
the
it
sun was
was-
setting a bit earlier, and the golden hour came right at like the perfect timing.
yeah, it was great.
It was really cool. It
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
was nice to be out in the country too. It's nice to shoot some country weddings. Now you guys are Destination 101.
We love Destination.
Yes.
Hire us.
I swear every time I pop on Instagram, you guys are somewhere else. I'm like, wait a minute, I just saw you last week.
Travel's a big part of our
Yeah.
lives, I think. Destination stuff is a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's great.
I think, yes, we're shooting in awesome locations and everything is beautiful and inspiring, but I think it's also really nice because we actually get to know the couples and
Spend at least a few days
That's true.
with them.
So we get to know their couples and we get to know the guests and everybody who's we really get to build some really great relationships, which makes things a ton of fun because, we usually, when we're shooting destination stuff, we're usually shooting like a welcome party a day or two before the wedding. And, you start meeting people. And then on the day of the wedding, it's like, hey,
It's a lot
Eric.
easier,
Yeah. And
yeah.
everybody's like, chatty, and it's easier to get great candid photos.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's also easier just to sort of get awesome photos when
You can just fall into the situation a lot
Yeah.
easier and just blend in. And it's always smaller groups of people too, I find.
yeah, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So what are some of the places you guys have been to? Because I know.
So last July we were in Italy.
Italy.
We did a wedding just outside of Florence. This April we were in Mexico. Actually, April and January. January and April we were in Mexico.
Yep.
One January Los Cabos, April near Cancun, Playa del Carmen.
Yep.
I've done Bali. I've done Montenegro. I've done a couple weddings in Italy. Eric's done a lot in the Caribbean.
Mexico.
Costa Rica,
Easy, yeah. Costa Rica.
which is
Costa Rica.
really beautiful.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Florida. You were in Palm Beach
Yep.
last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so your family lives in Italy, right?
So my background's Italian, and my dad actually moved back to Italy when he retired, and I have my grandfather there and basically everyone on my dad's side. So I try to go back as often as I can, just to visit with them. And I'm fortunate enough that my husband and I he loves Italy as much as I do, and so we try to get back a couple times a year if we
now,
can.
you speak Italian, is that
Sì, certo che parlo italiano.
Fluent.
right? What? Fluent.
Yeah.
So
Fun fact.
can you do a fun fact for Welcome to the VIP Collective in Italian? Yeah.
Do it.
Pressure.
You can say whatever you want. I won't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Benvenuti alla collezione VIP. No?
Oh my God, I'm
That
starting
was like-
every
that was
podcast
like
with that.
radio
yes,
voice.
I am.
yeah.
I'm doing that. That was so good.
I'm going to do it again. Benvenuti alla collezione VIP. I hope that's grammatically correct. Anybody who's Italian.
Yeah,
I never
amazing.
studied Italian. I just sort of...
You just absorbed it?
I just absorbed
Yeah.
it, yeah. Growing up, my dad spoke very little English. And so at home, we always spoke Italian. And to my aunts and relatives in Italy, I always speak Italian. Nobody speaks English. And so every time we go to Italy, my husband Mike, or Mike and Mike, in case you didn't know that, he doesn't speak any Italian, or he knows a little bit of Italian.
He's picking it up, isn't he?
It's getting better. He's very shy. He doesn't want to, he's always embarrassed to speak it.
So do you speak any other languages?
No, I don't.
You don't. Boring.
Google, yes. Google Translate. Uno cerveza.
Yeah. But you've been a lot of places recently too. But
Yeah.
I guess it's mostly English.
Yeah, they're
speaking.
mostly English speaking.
Fair
You should tell Corinne about your recent travels to Alaska.
Yeah, just got back from 2 weeks in Alaska.
Okay. fill me in.
Yeah, it was amazing. There was no midnight.
Great.
Sunrise and sunset
Yeah.
lasted for 2 hours.
Oh my God.
Golden hour was golden 2 hours. It was amazing.
A dream.
Like
Yeah.
right through until like midnight.
Yeah, the sun starts to set at like 10:30 at night, and then by 1 a.m. it's like dark blue until 3 a.m. when the sun starts coming back
Oh,
up.
my
Like the
goodness.
sun just kind of drops under the horizon and then comes
Wow.
right back up. It was great. Hard to sleep.
Yeah.
I was out there with a friend who's traveling by horseback. It's a whole crazy story and everything. So I just went out to join him for a few weeks and took a couple days to myself in the mountains and drove around and
Yep.
shot some landscape photos.
Yeah,
which is
some
great.
beautiful
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And
especially
you were
with-
sleeping in a camper van.
yeah, I slept in a van, rented a little van and slept in it.
Yeah.
I was like 3 days alone by myself. It was,
Did it have blackout curtains?
No, it didn't. It had them at one point, but they
Right.
had either. I don't know. It was just a cheap rental van.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That
really
sounds
great. It's a
amazing.
really interesting place.
I had a friend who lived in Nunavut, and she
wow.
had like curtains that she hung out that were black because she would send us photos at like
Yeah.
10 p.m. and it was like this.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like, how are you sleeping through that?
Yeah. Anytime anyone would ask the time, I'd just be like, it's close to midnight, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
You're just watching your clock being like, we should go to bed.
But
But you don't. No one does.
You don't.
People sleep for like 3 hours up there.
it's like
Yeah.
Vegas, only.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only
Different.
really wild and not like Vegas at all.
Yeah, not like
Yeah.
Vegas at all, but bright lights.
Yeah, it was cool. But they speak English there,
Right.
thankfully.
Yeah.
So no need for a second language.
Do you find that when you guys travel, you feel more inspired when you come back to Toronto? Like, do you find like your inspiration for photography comes like you feel like a new breath of life after you've been away for a bit, almost?
Depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it's nice to come back. But the good thing about traveling and like doing the destination weddings is like for the most part it's always a new location.
Yeah.
In that sense, it's really inspiring. Like
I think that's the task too, is to be able to switch things up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like
Yeah.
you have to take the location, and I think that's also a challenge with being a photographer, is like making it different,
Making it new and fresh.
making it
Yeah.
new and fresh, whether
Yeah.
it's like a different lens or
Yeah.
like a
you don't
different
want to cookie
framing.
cutter everything.
Yeah,
and-
exactly. You
yeah.
always have to make it different. And so.
It's funny because so the wedding we did in Florence last year, it was at this beautiful castle outside of Florence, and the videographer we were working with was local from Italy. And
You
he-
downplayed how nice the castle was.
Okay, the castle's like incredibly beautiful.
It was on top of a hilltop, looked onto the whole of Florence, the sun set onto it.
Sounds terrible.
It was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, okay, it was gorgeous. You're right. And so the videographer's like, "Oh, we're shooting a Castello Vincigliata again," and we're like, "Buddy,
What?
what are you talking about? Like, this place is incredible, and every corner is spectacular." And we're super excited. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry that you're not as excited
we're
as
just
we
running
are.
around taking photos of
Yeah, we
everything,
shot
and this
everything.
This guy's like, he's like, we're back at the Four Seasons Toronto.
Yeah.
and like in our mind, he's like, just at another place.
Right. So
Yeah.
it
Like-
happens to everybody where they go to the same
Yeah.
locations, whether you're in Italy or
Yeah. I
I think
Toronto
he
or
said he
wherever.
did like 15 to 20 weddings
Yeah.
there a year, which, you know, I get it gets redundant, but it was just it was so nice.
Like
He
there's
hadn't-
so
he hadn't
much
worked
to
with
work
us before those.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I bet he was
Yeah,
like
So
a new,
cheers to that.
Just to that.
a new breath of life. Okay, let's talk a little bit. First of all, the evolution of how weddings were back in like 2009,
Oh my God.
and the fact there was no social media,
None.
because even
No, was there Facebook? There was Facebook.
there was
But it was-
Facebook,
it was
but it
just
wasn't
coming
used
onto
for
the scene.
business. It was primarily
no,
your party
you're right.
pictures.
Yeah, well, it was
Let's
like,
get real.
use your digital camera, take the SD card, upload them to Facebook a day later.
Yeah.
Whereas
Create an
that's
album on
kind of how
Facebook.
it's. Yeah, you create an album. People still
Right.
use cameras.
Yep,
Or did you even go to
Well,
that
I
party if you
remember.
didn't post any pictures
exactly,
on Facebook? Like-
exactly. Did it ever happen?
Yeah.
That's the real
That's
question.
where it kind of started to snowball. I think is like late 2008, 9 into 10 was
I would even say earlier than that.
probably
Because I think we were still shooting film in 2006 at the studio.
Yeah.
And that was sort of an odd year, 2006 into 2007, because everybody wanted digital files.
Right.
Everybody
Yeah.
was all about, I want the
Interesting.
digital files. I want to be able to email them to friends and
Because
family
of
members.
almost
I want
be-
them on my computer. I want them on
Yes.
Facebook. Like, I want all of that.
Yeah.
yeah. It was a big
And
turning
so,
point.
Yeah,
right?
we're shooting film, like obviously with negatives. Scanning negatives was not what it is today. So yeah, it was a huge turning point for sure.
And that's right in the cusp of when Facebook launched, and so people wanted to be able to share. The sharing culture had begun.
Yeah.
So they wanted things
It
fast.
really started, and now it's just
Well, now it's
There's
a beast.
no control.
no control.
There's a great photo from the wedding we did in Italy of the couple dancing, and the table was like a U shaped in this courtyard in the castle, in the middle of the castle, and on one side there's all the like under 30,
Yeah.
people under 30 sitting at the table.
The bride's side and then
Yeah,
the
like
parents'
the
side.
friend's side,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
there was like the older family side of the table, and the older family was all like sitting and watching the first dance, and the young people all like everybody has a cell phone in their hand recording
Wow.
the moment.
The left side has their cell phones up and the right side's
Yeah,
watching.
It's wild.
And the bride and groom are dancing in the middle.
Yeah,
Oh, send
Yeah.
that.
it's wild.
We have it in our studio printed out.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful photo. We used it for an ad. It's like, it's a beautiful photo. When you really look into it, you're like, oh, it's kind of
Yeah, you can kind of pick
shows
up on
the
that.
social media takeover.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
unplugged
so dope.
ceremonies. This is for everyone out there. Unplugged ceremonies are the best thing you could possibly
Yeah.
do. There's nothing worse than Uncle Tom and his iPad in the middle of
With the
aisle.
iPad cover up.
Oh yeah,
With the cover up.
always.
Yeah, with the cover
always like this.
And it's like a 24-inch.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the iPad Pro with a cover on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually seen wedding planners go around with giant baskets
And collect.
cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because there's no way of controlling it. And I understand everybody wants the memory, right? Especially destination stuff. Destination stuff is even crazier for people taking their own photos
Because
and-
they're somewhere else.
because they're somewhere else, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful for them
Gotcha.
as well, right?
Yeah.
And I get that absolutely, but like I would rather have a beautiful, clean photo with nobody holding up a cell phone and everyone just being present and being in that moment, and
Yeah.
then we'll send you the photo so this way you have it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like if you really want that photo, we will gladly send it to you after the fact, or
Yeah.
even
And
at
even-
some point
yeah.
where there's a lull and we can edit it quickly. But just like put your cell phone down.
Yeah. Even when they say it and we're like, unplug ceremony, like, or if you're going to take a photo, stay seated,
Yeah.
people still get up.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple weddings now where the bride and groom walk down the aisle, they stand at the front, and then the officiant will be like, okay, this is going to be an unplugged ceremony in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Everyone take your photos now.
Yeah.
And people will stand up, take photos of the bride and groom and all
That's
that,
good.
and sit back down. People are still going to do it.
It helps. It
Kind of
helps.
helps.
Anything
Yeah.
helps.
Because they still get their A shot, which is
Yes.
what they're trying to
Yeah.
Yeah, which they can post while the ceremony's happening. And
I think it's pouch called Yonder. Have you heard of this?
No.
Yes.
Okay, you've heard of this?
Comedians use it. Artists use it. You go to their show and you put your phone in a
You
pouch.
put your phone in a
that
pouch.
The venue locks.
Called Yonder.
Oh, interesting.
And it magnetizes so it locks and you can't open it. But they give you the pouch. So you go into the ceremony, you have your phone, but you can't access it. And then to get it undone, it's almost like those tags in the store when
Yeah.
you go and they
Yeah,
Ink
security
tags.
ink
tags.
tags,
Yeah.
security tags. It's like that. So they
Yeah.
have to do that in order for you to get your phone back.
I think that's a
Yeah.
fantastic idea.
That's cool, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it started with comedians because people would be recording their show and post a clip out of context. Where it's
Gotcha.
like some super vulgar clip, but if you didn't see the pre or post,
Yeah.
it just looks really bad out of
Interesting.
place. So they're like, no cell phones, start locking them up. Have you seen it at weddings or?
I've seen it at one wedding that
Oh, you
I
have?
shot.
You
yeah.
have?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Yeah.
All the planners out there, get on it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it was a good thing to have. It was kind of funny because they had done the ceremony, and then they were doing a luncheon reception afterwards. It was a 2-day ceremony, and so then they had gone to the reception part, and people were like ready to get their phones back, but the bride wanted to probably them locked
Oh,
up
they
for
were probably
reception.
just fiending to get
They
their
were-
phones back. Yeah.
They're like in the corner, like ripping them,
Yeah.
like sawing at them. You're like, it's gonna happen. Don't worry.
Everybody was
You'll be all right.
constantly doing this, and they're
Yeah,
like,
they're
"Oh, I have
still
nothing to look
checking.
at."
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, social media has done wonders for our industry and our business. Absolutely, like because of it, we've gotten some great destination stuff, and we've gotten some really great clients. So having that ability to sort of really elevate your brand and show people what you're all about on a platform that almost everybody is on.
Definitely the
it's
most popular.
it's a great thing.
Or do you find that people still ask you for business cards, and then do you just give them Instagram?
What are business cards?
right?
I think our last run of business cards, like we still have them all.
No, we got rid of them
Maybe.
before we moved.
We
right?
did, yeah.
In a
We
dusty
changed
corner.
addresses, and we were just like,
Just
we don't
like-
need them anymore.
There is something beautiful about having a really nice printed business card. I totally
Yeah.
get that, but also like we literally have people that just ask us for Instagram.
I think there was a point last year where 3/4 of our website traffic was direct from Instagram.
Yeah.
From Instagram.
That's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
So people are still looking at websites, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
they're going through the profile first to see if they.
Instagram seems to be like the introduction channel for us or for
And
a
it's-
lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
100% a full-time job.
I know.
And it's it's such a huge representation of your brand. So you really have to sort of spend the time. And I mean, I would love to be able to spend more time on it, but we just have too much stuff to do.
Yeah, a lot going
Always.
on. It's popular.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think if anybody's out there and they want to take over our Instagram account, hit me up. You slide into my DMs and we'll talk.
What do the kids say?
Slide into the
my
DM.
DMs.
Yep, that's it.
I think I'm too old to say that, but you know what?
Yeah,
I don't care.
Anything goes here.
The rosé talking.
Yeah. Let's talk wedding day.
That's for sure.
So do you love like the prep portion the most, or are you more interested in like the creative together couple stuff, or they're all different because they all give their own different creativity?
It doesn't happen often, but when Eric and I work together, we kind of have a really great groove.
Yeah. We just both take
We
the
know
reins on
what
different
it
things.
is we need to be doing, and we just do it. We get it done.
Yeah.
It can happen. It can happen quick. We can make it happen.
Yeah.
When you think you have an hour for something and then it only ends up being 20 minutes, which happens all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
That's the name of the game in weddings.
Yeah.
Where'd the time go?
Well, we scheduled an hour and a half. Here's 15 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or when
Exactly.
you're when you're shooting the couple and you literally have 20 minutes when you should have had an hour, but you only have 20 minutes. And then you see this dark cloud rolling in and you're like, okay, we need to speed this up because there's a storm coming.
There goes the light.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do. Right?
When the reception starts and it's just like all those heavy formalities are out of the way.
Yeah.
Where it's like the couple, the family photos, and the ceremony are all finished. It's just kind of like
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
That's
true.
that moment of where
big
you can
relief
take a
point
breath.
Where it's like it's candidates, it's dancing, it's speeches from there on out.
It's like fun shooting
It's
almost.
all in one room.
Yeah.
It's just a little easier at that point.
Right.
Getting that out of the way is always great.
I would say the most stressful part would be family photos, especially if you have
Doesn't
a
matter the
lot.
situation.
Yeah,
Any-
but if you have a lot of family members, if you
Uh-huh.
have divorced parents, and if you have a little bit of tension, you're like,
There's
oh,
always
my mother
politics
doesn't
and
speak with
family
my
drama.
stepmother, or whatever
Yeah.
that is. That can always be a bit of an issue. And I think the best part of a day would be either right after the ceremony, or a little bit after the reveal, depending on how the day is scheduled. But I find that after the ceremony, couples are super relaxed.
Huge amount of relief.
Yeah, it's like this weight is just lifted off their shoulders, and
Oh, for sure.
they're like, okay, finally. Yeah, finally I can have a glass of champagne. I don't care if my dress gets dirty.
Right.
It's like
In most weddings now, they do a first look before the ceremony, so all the formal photos are out of the way before the ceremony. Ceremony's over, they get to enjoy their cocktail hour and then spend time with their guests in the reception.
yeah,
So it can just be like a huge drop in.
yeah.
You're officially married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can feel people relaxed. So, since you guys have so much experience, what advice do you give? What do you give someone
To the bride and groom?
No, sorry. Let me rephrase.
Okay.
What advice do you give to a new photographer who wakes up tomorrow and they're the 17-year-old Mike? And
Oh my
they're
God!
Like,
What
I
would
watch weddings.
This feels like RuPaul.
Ooh.
Do you watch RuPaul's
don't
Drag
watch
Race?
RuPaul.
So we'll go a little bit off here, but there's a scene in RuPaul's Drag Race towards the end of the season where he has 5 queens or whatever, and he pulls up an old photo of them, and it's like, what advice would you give to little Tommy? And it's like, well, I would say to little Tommy. What I would say to 17-year-old Mike is wear better shoes.
Oh, fact.
Yeah.
That's a great piece of
I
advice
used to
for
shoot weddings.
everybody
I
in
used
the
to be
industry.
so worried about how good I look, and I'd be like, yeah,
You still look all right.
Doing all right.
Never dies. But yeah, no, definitely a comfortable pair of shoes, and you have to be nice to everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if that person is the client, if that person is the client's best friend, if that person is the wedding planner or the florist or
Grumpy
the
uncle,
videographer, or even the server.
Yeah.
Who's literally just trying to pass out hors d'oeuvres, because we're all in it together on the day of a wedding, especially from a vendor standpoint.
Yeah.
There's so many times where we are doing things that are not
Helping people
Part of
carry
our
bags
job.
or
carrying bags,
running to get the wedding planner. And
I always have lipstick in my pocket. I end up with everybody's lipstick and everyone's hair tie around my wrist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because girls always get their hair done,
Always
and
have
they
a hair
always
tie.
have a hair tie
A hair
around
tie.
their wrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that drives me crazy.
Yep. Because then you have to Photoshop that out if you don't get it. So now you're just trained to know.
I collect them.
to
I
get
literally
that.
will set up a bridesmaid shot early in the morning, like
And
once
just
they're ready, and I
take
will
them
literally
all
start
off.
going by, and be like, give me a hair tie, give me a hair tie, give me a hair
That's
tie,
smart.
and I will give it to you after. Like after the ceremony or during the reception, you can have it back.
Have it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Because it's anyways. So yeah, be nice to everyone. I think that's super important.
Good shoes.
Good shoes. Shoot.
Yeah.
Trained
Take
like
it slow.
just-
Take it so
yeah.
slow. Cameras shoot so fast now that like putting your camera on single shot and really slowing down, and not necessarily reviewing every shot, but like I like to set the shot up before I even pull my camera up, and then like a few well-timed, thought-out photos are going to be way better than 30 photos banged off in a row and just hoping like there's a good one in there.
That's something. Oh, excuse me.
It's getting you.
That is something I've noticed with you with a lot of the creative shoots that we do too. Is that you have this like Terminator vision of like
Eric is so good at that.
Oh, my level?
He
you're
is so good
leveling.
at that.
Like I literally
That
picture
camera is slightly rotated to the left.
Yes. See.
I
See? I know
overshoot always.
Yes.
I'm an overshooter. I can't help it.
Yeah.
I try. I really do try.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit of an overshooter. Eric, on the other hand, is like 3 shots. He knows he's got it. He's good.
I still overshoot. People starting out, like people learning photography from the get-go, I would honestly say learn on film. It's going to
true.
slow you down.
Oh,
you're going to
Yeah.
you're going to work the settings and everything so much further and really set the shot up, knowing like I have 22 photos on here. I can't see it and I can't delete it, so take your time taking it.
Right.
And applying that to digital photography now, and especially with like those timelines we were talking about where an hour and a half turns into 15 minutes,
Yep.
knowing as the photographer you have to get those shots, but also you're setting, as a photographer, we're generally setting the pace for the day too.
Oh, 100%.
Knowing
The
like,
wedding planner creates a timeline.
But you
I
guys
like to
keep
think
it.
that we maintain it up until the reception.
Yes.
Because at the
Yeah.
reception, it's kind of like, okay, whatever.
But often-
you cue the speeches, you
Yeah.
talk to the kitchen,
Yeah.
you figure out when the next course
Yeah.
is coming out. Like, that's
the
fine.
wedding planner's already at the reception and we're with
Yeah.
the bride and groom at the hotel being like, we have to leave in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We might have 15,
Yeah.
but keeping everyone on schedule and still shooting slow in the chaos of a wedding can be very hard.
I remember my first wedding, and just
Yeah.
that you're so overwhelmed because you don't know what to shoot. You're just like, okay, you know you're supposed to get everything that happens in a sense, but like you also don't know which moments are the most important to capture. And so
Yeah.
I remember like my head just spinning. Like,
And it's all subjective too.
and I was I
Yeah.
was assisting for somebody, so it wasn't like my first time shooting alone, but just even that thought process of like, okay, now she's walking over there, should I shoot that? When it's like, no, like she's just going to the bathroom,
Focus on
relax.
the play. Right,
Like,
right.
Do
don't
you
need
remember
to
your
be
first time
everywhere.
shooting alone?
First time shooting alone. I remember the first wedding I had done with the business. Yes,
Ooh, okay.
it wasn't alone, but
Okay.
I mean it was, and it was a really beautiful, cool wedding, and it was in Muskoka.
Nice.
And it had so many elements to it. There was the father was driving her in the boat up to the ceremony,
Nice.
so like logistically, there
Oh,
was
yeah.
a lot that
You
had
have
to
to-
be thought out
where are you gonna-
beforehand,
yeah,
where
yeah,
we were
yeah.
going to be, and there were 2 of us on that day. And the film's like, I love the film. It's probably one of my favorites, but
Nice.
it's a real transition to go from being a second to a first.
Yeah.
And like your brain completely does a shift of like, okay, now you have to focus on all these other elements. Right? So
And I mean, just again, going back to what would you tell somebody starting out is be as organized as possible leading
Beforehand.
Beforehand. So ask as many questions as you have to. Like, is anyone deceased in the family that I need to know about? Is anyone divorced? Is there any family tension that I should be aware of? Is there, where is it that you're going to be getting ready? What's the light situation?
Photo
like?
locations.
Or
Where's the
maybe
sun
even go
setting?
scope it out.
Yeah.
Like really be on top. Like think about every sort of possible thing that is going to affect what it is that you're doing on the day of the wedding, and
Yep.
ask the questions beforehand and be prepared for it.
Yeah.
Because it's super, super important. And bring food and water with you if you can.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
I keep a
biggie.
cooler in my passenger seat just because
I have one of those
I
too.
got heat stroke 3 times last year.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's avoidable, obviously, but when you're just running around, like
There really
Yeah.
should be the backpacks with the straws.
those, what are they
One more
called?
thing to carry,
Camelback,
Corinne.
a little
Yeah.
camelback.
Amazing to
Yeah,
carry.
I got 2 liters of
One more
water and
thing.
20 pounds of camera gear. Yeah, that's great.
But hey, you'd feel great
Or
the
camera
next day.
bags should have
They should have.
Yeah,
like a
Little-
runner's pouch in there.
little
With,
camera-
guys,
camera
new
bag,
business.
Honestly,
Honestly.
I would do that.
but we also don't wear our
And
bags.
also, this is for the couples out there. Like, it's really nice if you make sure that there's food and water for your bridal party on the day of the wedding.
Yes.
And also for your vendors, if you could include them in that count, because like we're not machines. We need to eat and drink
And
too.
often it's 12 hours straight we're working.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, 10, 12 hours
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I
It's
think
it's crazy because you don't even realize how long it's been since you've eaten. Like you might get up at 8 or 9, you eat breakfast,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
you're like, oh my god, it's 8 p.m.
Yeah, like, I should
I
eat something.
literally haven't eaten anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Or those really hot summer days where we're just crushing bottles of water.
my God.
And then
Red
next
Bull?
thing you know, it's like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. This is the first time I'm actually like peeing.
Yeah. Or you get to the reception and you
Crazy.
sit down, you're like, oh, sitting.
Yeah.
Remember
Remember
sitting?
sitting? Yeah.
Remember sitting?
Yeah, I had that 2 weeks ago.
That can be very dangerous. It can be very dangerous. It
I
can
know.
be hard to get out of that chair.
I know. Once you sit, you almost like
Yeah.
plateau a bit. And you're like,
Especially on
Yeah.
those hot days where you're
Yeah.
just...
Yeah, when you get into the ballroom and it's like so nicely air conditioned.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason why we love shooting details is because number one, it's like the room is generally pretty quiet.
It's always the coldest
and it's
before
the
anyone
coldest.
gets in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Given that there's air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's some places that don't have it.
Or like when
Or-
you're doing a tented wedding, I've
Yeah.
literally like found 5 or 10 minutes where I can like go to my car and take off my shirt and I will give myself a baby wipe shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Bring a change of shirts.
yeah,
Like,
towel off, change my shirt, a little bit of cologne, deodorant, and I feel like $1,000,000.
See, that's a hot tip.
It's another hot tip.
yeah.
That is.
Literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's something you
Change
should.
of clothes can be a big thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even just your shirt. Well, destination stuff, we do it all the time. Like when we're shooting beach weddings, we usually
Yeah.
start off in shorts and t-shirts.
Like board shorts. Like I have a bathing suit on generally.
For those,
Black bathing suit. Don't mind you.
but yeah, like we usually will change for the reception.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it's like some 42-degree days or something like
Yeah.
that.
Another thing that I usually do, this is for anyone who's shooting destination stuff, all those nice little hand towels that they leave in your hotel room, throw a couple in your camera bag.
Right.
And I literally have
That's a
one
good
like
idea.
attached to my
Be
belt
up
tube. and
dabbing the groom's forehead.
well, the groom, but also your own forehead.
also your
because
own.
Sunscreen
Yeah.
and sweat in your
Oh, in your-
eye
oh,
when you're
yeah.
trying to shoot.
Stains.
Or even on the back of your camera, it's just
Yeah.
like a ring around the eyepiece and everything. Like destination weddings are great, but they're also
They're
some
not
of the
easy.
hottest weddings
Yeah.
you'll
Yeah.
ever shoot.
Another tip for anyone shooting destination stuff, put your camera gear outside on your balcony
Yes.
prior to shooting. So if you're starting at like 11, put it out there at 10:30, unzip the bag and
warm
leave
it up?
open
To climatize
to
it.
acclimatize it because
The
you can,
condensation.
yeah, because you could literally go from your hotel room, which is air conditioned, to the bride's room that's air conditioned, but that walk outside or those few minutes that
It
you're
can take
outside,
15 minutes.
Yeah.
And even
Your
if you
camera will
have
fog
your
up.
camera bag outside and it's closed, I've had times where it hasn't climatized because it's still cold on the inside. And then you open up your camera and your sensors fogged over, the lenses are fogged
Yes.
over, and the sun's coming up and you're about to start the engagement shoot and you're like, I can't until this clears itself out.
I've had that as well. I was shooting in Cayman, I think, and it was super cold in the
Yeah.
hotel, and then we went outside and everything fogged up, and then
Yeah.
it takes time, right? for it
And
to
if you're
kinda-
going back and forth, I can remember the last one we did where we were doing the reveal, and I was like, we'd shoot with 2 cameras at all times.
Yeah.
I took one of both of our cameras and put them up in the reveal location
Right.
in the shade just so they can start to climatize. And that was
Smart.
the only reason we could shoot it, make it happen, and keep everything on
And keep
schedule.
on schedule.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys describe your style of photography when you're speaking to brides? Like when they ask, "What's your style?" So I think there's different categories. There is for video. There's like the documentary. There's
Yep.
highlights. There's cinematic. But I think like what kind of style do you guys usually say that you guys have?
I would say that it's photojournalistic with a mix of some editorial portraiture. So we are still giving direction. We are still going to sort of set people up, and we're trying to kind of create moments between people, I guess.
Not too invasively.
Not too invasively, but we're still shooting candidly.
Yep.
We're still shooting things as they're happening. Absolutely, I think that's at the forefront of our work. But we're not afraid to step in and give direction when we have to.
Yeah.
It's funny because we find a lot of times when we're shooting, especially with like engagement sittings or just couple photos, people are like, "Okay, well, what do you want us to do?" And they're looking to us for direction, and so we're giving
What do I
direction
do
as
with
if
my
we're
hands?
directing a film,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of like, yeah.
You know that? Talladega Nights or whatever.
Put 'em up.
That's why I think pockets are the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Especially for guys. Because you
Yes.
never know what to do with our hand.
Yeah, it's
So
so
honestly,
true.
Like a hand in the
Yeah.
pocket, one hand out can look really sharp if it's done well. So I would say that our style is probably a mix of photojournalistic with some editorial portraiture. That's
I
usually
see
what
like
tell
some
people.
fine art because you guys really know how to utilize buildings and structures and just to make it
Your
look
surroundings.
Yeah, I think that's maybe
Yeah.
what I'm looking for, but I don't know, it just translates so beautifully. It's not just
Thank you.
a portrait, but it's
we try and
an
think
art
about
piece.
the whole scene instead of
Yeah.
like being like when someone says take our picture, we don't just take it there. We'll look around and be like, okay, turn your back to here. And we're going to take that photo because the backdrop's part of it too. We don't
And there's
just
so
wanna-
many factors. The lighting can be different,
yeah,
right? In
yeah.
a different area.
Just trying to declutter photos and make it cleaner.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, and I think really what makes our work stand out is our editing style.
Yeah.
In that, we color correct each image individually as opposed to doing like presets and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And what we're trying to achieve is beautiful natural skin tones. When I first started the studio back in 2001, we were shooting all in film, and skin tones was at the forefront of what we were doing, and making sure that our skin tones were beautiful. And sort of, when we switched over to digital, we transitioned, and we wanted to make sure that the skin tones were natural, and that colors seemed natural to the human eye.
yeah, true, like a true representation of the day of. You don't want. I mean, there are people out there who kind of correct with more of a yellow cast, or might go a little cooler, or warmer, or greener, or something like that.
Or
But-
darker and moodier.
Yeah, which is they're beautiful photos. They look nice and everything, but we just we have photos up in our studio from 8 years ago, and they
Our old studio, yeah.
old studio. Yes, they're not up.
It's
in
on
the
our
new
to-do
one.
list.
Yeah. But they're outdated in terms of time.
Content.
Yeah, of content, but the style holds the same. The people it's just nice, white, bright, no color cast or anything like that. Because I always tell people it's like sepia tone photos, where it's like if your parents have a sepia tone photo, they got married in the 70s or 80s. It's just like
I
it
see.
places that photo,
Okay.
and
It
with
dates it.
with
Okay.
the yellowy, greeny photos that people are taking now, it's going to be like, oh, you got married before 2020 or something like that. Like we just don't want to have a modern trend to our photos, I guess.
It's
Yeah,
like,
something
Anything
that's
like that.
timeless and elegant, I
Yeah.
think.
Like a classic piece almost.
Yeah, a classic piece is
Yeah.
always going to be elegant and beautiful. And again, that allows the image to speak for itself. So if it's a great candid moment, it's going to translate well and it's going to look beautiful over time. I'm still a huge fan of black and white.
Yeah,
I love
likewise.
black and white.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of grain as well. So
Grain or green?
Grain.
Grain.
Like a grainy
Film grain.
image.
Gotcha.
Like a film grain.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that. With digital, yes, you have to bump up your ISO and blah blah blah. And start getting technical, but
It's not the same, but
it's not the same, but it's still, I think there's, like for reception coverage or for party coverage, I think it could be really beautiful.
a lot of the times it's content over quality, where
Right.
it's like I just want that photo of that person smiling. Like the person in it is more important than the photo itself.
No, that's good. And I've seen that you guys do like you guys have days where you work together just on posing, right? Because I've seen
At the studio?
At the studio,
Yeah.
like you guys work on that, and
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference is that like people think just because I have a video camera, I can be a photographer.
Different beast. It's a
It's
very
a different
different
thing.
beast.
And we get the same thing. We get people that
Okay,
ask us
yeah.
being like, oh, I want to hire a videographer, but can you just record
The ceremony.
Right.
but this my speech or something like that? It's like,
Yeah.
no, I can't.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a videographer.
We don't have
Yeah.
mics. We don't have lights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
have any of the equipment needed. Like we
Yeah.
have a camera that shoots video that we never use to
Yeah.
shoot video,
I don't think my camera's ever recorded a video.
maybe by mistake. but
Maybe, yeah.
That's why some of my cameras, the shutter count is so low because
my God.
I don't take photos.
But the camera's very worked in, I'm sure.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
of
like-
course,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like DSLR and it's still like prime for photo
Right,
because
yeah,
the shutter
right.
is still looking
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
good
Very-
resale
We should
value.
talk.
Low shutter
Exactly.
count.
We should talk. 'Cause our shutter counts are like through the roof
Yeah.
on our gear. Like when
Yeah,
it starts
most
getting
of our
towards the end of its lifespan.
Few of our
I guess.
cameras had the shutters fully replaced in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because they burn out after a while, but everything else is good. Like, yeah, I think most of our cameras have like a 200,000 photo count
Oh my
on them or something
goodness.
like that, and
Mine
we'll
had,
do
like-
that in a season.
Okay, and the last one to end off is why don't you ask a question to the audience that's watching?
I was gonna say, if you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be?
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yep.
This is to our brides. Like, you are beautiful. Everyone is beautiful in their own unique way, and embrace that beauty.
Don't be hard on yourself, Kat.
Don't be hard on yourself. That's a good one.
Don't
To the
be hard on
brides.
yourself.
I like saying that to the
Yeah.
brides.
Don't be so hard on yourself, and enjoy your day.
Yeah,
Like, honestly, it goes by so
Live in the
fast.
moment.
You spent all this time planning and fussing over the craziest little things.
Let your vendors take over.
And trust the people you hired.
Yeah, that's why we're there, right?
Trust the people you hired.
It's not our first rodeo.
Yeah.
It's not it's my favorite line. It's not my first rodeo. It's not my first time shooting a wedding.
Yeah.
I could do this probably with my eyes closed.
Autofocus.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to shooting with you guys this summer.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, next week.
Next
week.
weekend.
Next week. So
Hopefully many more.
maybe we'll circle back and give
And do
some
like a post
wrap up?
a post recap with some
We're all
footage
weathered and
some
grayer and just like, what a season.
in January. We're all like,
Well, this was a
I think
lot
it'll
of
be
fun.
fun, so-
Yeah, it was great.
And
Good.
honestly,
I'm glad you
Corinne,
guys came
I'm
out.
so glad that you're starting this and doing it. And I feel
you.
so glad that we were number one. Ashley Pigo was number one. I love you.
Number 2's okay.
Totally
we got a silver medal. It's
Totally
fine.
fine with number 2.
Fine.
silver
Absolutely
medal.
fine being number 2.
She's great.
But yeah, no, this is really great. It's a
Yeah.
really
Cool.
nice sort of way of getting a little insight into our industry.
Yes.
Because unless you come and meet with us,
We
and
have these
you-
conversations with each other, but never out loud.
Yeah, we always talk about this kind of stuff when we're together and, at events and that kind of thing. But yeah, thank you.
Glad you guys came. Let's cheers.
Glad you
Thanks for
Rosé.
having us. Can't wait
Cheers
to watch
to
this
that.
grow.
Everybody say Rosé Wednesday.
Rosé Wednesday.
Hey.